gazillion recruiters and staffing firms out there don't know. They might know the ideal client profile. They don't know the buyer persona of the hiring manager, and they don't know the buyer journey of the hiring manager.
Welcome back to Talent Hunters, where we explore insights and trends shaping the global recruiting and staffing industry. Want to build talented teams that drive your company toward big goals and big growth? Then this podcast is for you. And now, let's join the conversation with today's episode of Talent Hunters, brought to you by HireQuest. Connect with us at hirequest.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Vince Holt, and I'm the host of Talent Hunters. And today we have the honor of Tom Kosnick, the president of Avisis Group, located in Chicago, Illinois. Tom has been involved in consulting with staffing and recruiting leadership teams for over 25 years. Helping them grow and become more profitable. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, as I was checking out your background, I'd like to learn a little bit about you and how you got started in this career journey by the words shortest straw.
Yeah. So I was, let's see, I've only really had like two careers. My first career, I was a lay minister for the Catholic Church, and I did that for 12, 13 years. And then I met my wonderful wife, Catherine, who I call Saint Catherine. She's put up with all my craziness over the years. And so we got into, we got married. We started a family, and I thought, boy, it's going to be tough raising a family on a layman's salary. So I reached out to my father-in-law, who is a serial entrepreneur. He started many businesses. Wonderful man. Has been a mentor to me over the years, and so he introduced me into an individual that was out of Cincinnati that had a peer roundtable program that he was doing. And, I had some experience with facilitation and managing retreats and things like that. So we struck a deal, and this gentleman was going to show us his method and processes and all that. And long story short, my father-in-law never does anything small. So there were like 5 of us facilitators in this conference room. And somebody says, hey, well, I want to work with the vice presidents of engineers, build roundtables for vice presidents of engineers. And somebody said, I want CFOs. And somebody said, I want operations. So my father-in-law looked at me and said, hey, Tom, the only thing that's left is staffing. And so I said, all right, that's fine. I'll take that. And anyway, I put my head down, and 3 years later, I was 80% of the revenue of this little new business that we were starting. And then off we went. So that's how I call it. I drew the short straw. That like all of us, Vince, like nobody gets into this industry by design. Nobody goes to school to get into the staffing industry. It's all like, well, how'd you get into the staffing industry? It's like, oh, that's an interesting story. It's by total accident. I ended up here.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, you're absolutely right. When I got into this business nearly 40 years ago, I went to a recruiter, and thank God it wasn't a service recruiter because I didn't want to go into the military at the time. But I got into this by accident, totally by accident. And it's been the greatest gift I've ever been a part of. It really has.
That's great. That's great.
Now, you built a program that is truly an effective method labeled ODBM. And I really want you to expand on that because it's something that I think our listeners really should pay attention to.
Yeah, it's really based on the action research method, Vince, and that is and we work with people that own their own businesses. So we work with CFOs and VPs of sales and executive vice presidents, but we have over 100 active independently owned staffing businesses as clients, and all of them are in growth mode. So they all want to grow their business, and they want to grow their business at different levels. They all have different growth goals, but they're all in a growth mode. And the OBDM method is really, you need to take a look internally at a deep dive assessment of the organization internally in terms of what's working, what's not working. You also have to look on the outside. All this like new technology that's been coming into the marketplace, what the competitors are doing, what the clients are doing, what the clients are demanding. We have to look at candidates, what candidates are, how they're behaving and what they're asking for. And that all tells a story, right? It tells you get all that data in on the front end, and it's all going to tell a story about where can Tom Kosnick position the Vices Group to best meet the needs of these changing dynamics. And then we look at, well, here's the existing business model. Here's where the need is. Here's where the holes are in the marketplace. Here's where there's not enough folks that are offering a particular service or whatnot. And then, okay, what do we need to change internally in order to get there? And then change, big mistake that a lot of companies make, by the way, just in general, is that they change for the sake of change. And ultimately, a business has key performance indicators, and whatever those are, those KPIs. But the change should affect the KPIs in a positive way. There's business KPIs, and then there are individual producer KPIs. And so I've had clients that picked a particular strategy. They bought particular software. They say, oh, wow, this is going to be magic for this is going to take us to the game. And the gross profit production, revenue in per internal producer drops. And it's not that, oh, we got a new technology, so production is going to drop for 3 months, and that's going to take us 3 months to get back, and then in 6 months we're going to be like the 25% more increase on productivity. So you have to measure on the front end what it is that you want to change. You make the change, and then you track those KPIs, the business and the personal KPIs, so that you can see, yes, this decision to whatever that key initiative, whatever that change was, is actually producing the positive results that we're looking for. And easier said than done. But in short, that's really what that whole model is about. And oh my gosh, I could tell you.
I get where you're going.
I could tell you over 100 stories. It's just like, oh my gosh. I mean, you did what? You spent what? And anyway. So it's but that's what it's all about.
Well, there's some very simple. Recruiting is the simplest job in the world. It really is. We make it difficult. We make it complicated because, as it's been my experience, that the more successful some people are, the more shortcuts they look for. The flip side, for the desperate recruiters, right?
Yep.
They don't have the time frame in their head to want to learn how to do it the correct way. So they're already taking shortcuts.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Somebody like yourself is such a necessary need out there to help people sit down, get control of where they're going, keep it simple, break it down to the basics of having to get done.
Right.
And then consulting with them as they become successful becomes apparent too, because gosh, I'm the greatest recruiter in the world. I don't have to do that part anymore, and I don't have to do this anymore. Now, there is something that's going on today, and it's been rapidly coming on to us with the advances of technology. Getting a hold of hiring authorities.
Yes.
It is a major, major problem to our world of recruiting because I got a guy.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? And I know it's different for everybody that you're consulting with and so forth, but there has to be a constant in there that you focus on. Look, here is the simplest step that I've learned or taken from others. Okay.
It's a great question. Yeah.
What's the basic for getting a hold of hiring authorities in today's world?
Yeah, this is where you maybe a company would hire somebody on a contract basis to do some of this work for the recruiters and or the salespeople. But number one, understanding the buyer persona, right? Of your best clients, who are your best clients? What is that persona? What is the are they high D's on the disc? Are they high S's? Are they high social folk? What is the buyer persona? Number one. Number two, what is the buyer journey? How does that buyer buy staffing services? Okay. So that's the first piece. Vince, a gazillion recruiters and staffing firms out there don't know. They might know the ideal client profile. Oh, middle market, electronic companies, ... X number of people in the IT department. They may know the ideal client profile, but they don't know down to, because you asked the word, hiring authority, hiring manager. They don't know the buyer persona of the hiring manager, and they don't know the buyer journey of the hiring manager. So that's step one. Step two is that a company has got to create meaningful information that they can send into those hiring managers, those hiring authorities that they know is a high probability that they're going to notice, they're going to read, they're going to save, they're going to pass on to a colleague. So that might be something about how AI is affecting the hiring process. That could be about how candidates are using AI to change resumes specific to a specific job. It could be something about offshoring, nearshoring, whatever it is, right? So we do know that the hiring authorities have things that they're thinking about when they go to bed at night. Well, what are those things that they're thinking about as they go to bed at night? What are their big concerns? And then we need to create content that we can float in to those hiring managers, those hiring authorities. And after, whether that's on LinkedIn, whether that's through email, after a number of contacts of sending that information in, then we start to reach out on LinkedIn. We start to make phone calls too. And let me tell you, like the old days, you look like you're you said 40 years. I've been 30 years, so servicing the industry. So, I mean, you remember these numbers, right? Gosh, if a recruiter is just on the phone for 180 minutes a day, they're going to be successful. Not the case anymore. We have to support. We have to supplement that recruiter's sales activity with a high value add, personalized marketing, a marketing approach, and if we in fact do that, that's pinpointed towards those hiring authorities, their personas, and the buyer journey. You're going to see quite a bit, like as much as 30%, 35% increase in the number of callbacks, the number of connects that somebody's going to be making to hiring authorities. So it's the smile and dial, hey, just make 100 phone calls a day or make 50 phone calls a day. I mean, you still make phone calls. We all make phone calls, right? It's still all part of it. But I mean, just like, hey, we hire somebody new, and we're going to give them a Rolodex, and they're going to start making phone calls, and we're going to train them some scripts on leaving messages and things like that. Good luck. Not going to happen. That is actually, and there's data on this, that actually is less successful than the old days where you would send out paper mails. The credit card company sending out mails and to get somebody to sign up for a credit card. It's less successful than that today. So you have to augment the outbound sales, the outbound reaches to these hiring authorities with value-add information, and on a consistent basis, right? If you're doing it like every 2 weeks, same day, same time, every 2 weeks, Vince, what does that communicate, right? This guy's credible. This guy's organized. This guy's coming from a company that's organized. They got their act together. They're consistent. They're reliable. The information is good. Credibility, right? I mean, come on. You've been through. You've probably been through all the same sales training that I've been through. These are all the things that we've got to do before somebody's going to say, okay, I'm gonna take a call from Vince. I'm gonna take a call from Tom. Yeah. So
I love the approach of touches. What message, and there's got to be a succinct message that you're sending to your audience. You each have to be an individual. You each have to be bringing your value in order for me, the hiring authority, to pay you a fee. So in the approach you just described, what makes me as a recruiter different than everybody else? Because everybody else is using technology to send resumes, to send some flamboyant message that they're the latest, greatest, and have all the solutions to a company's problems. What would make me different?
Yeah, just so two things, two thoughts about that. One thought would be there's an organization out there called Great Recruiters, and Great Recruiters, what they do, it's real time feedback. So if I'm a recruiter in life science for whatever, a half a dozen different job categories, if I'm a recruiter in those areas, and I place Vince, and then like Great Recruiters, like automatically this individual, I asked the person I placed, hey, can you write a review? Can you make a comment? Can you rate me on Great Recruiters? And so Great Recruiters has got this rating where, Vince is rated at 4.8 or Tom's rated at 3.7, like the so and so. But it's basically a rating system, sort of like, Google ratings and some of these other ratings. Now, and why that's important, why something like that is important, is because it's the way that buyers are buying now. And it's not just buyers. We're not just talking about buyers hiring managers. We're talking about whether, you and I want to go catch lunch and we're at a conference at a place we've never been before. What are we going to do? We're going to pick up our iPhones, restaurants near me, and then we're going to start scrolling. You and I aren't going to go to eat at a place that's, a 2.8 star. We're much more highly likely to go eat at a place that's like a 3.8 or a 4.2. Better yet, what doesn't matter that it's invalid and unreliable from a statistician's perspective, but the fact that there's an external organization that's rating based on real input from candidates that I'm placing, that I have a certain rating. And now Great Recruiters, I believe they can even rate me against like all the recruiters out there that are rated. So that's number one. It's an external rating factor that, I have on LinkedIn, I have in my email, that shows all that. Secondly, and this is the whole personal branding thing, which really, has become a much more of a big deal now than it did 3 years ago, or certainly 5 years ago. And that could be personal branding, could be the information that I'm putting out on LinkedIn on that I am the knowledge resource for jobs in life science in these 5 areas. And so that may be me on podcasts, that may be me speaking at certain events, that may be me getting things published in certain categories. And that all of that stuff, Vince, is a personal branding of the recruiter. And so then you get candidates out there. Do I want to talk to Joe, who's the generalist, or do I want to talk to Vince, who is the subject matter expert and specialist in life science and the kind of job that I'm looking for? You know where they're going to go, right?
Now you touched on, and I like this a lot. I really do. So I want to do a little deeper dive in this, because I feel that your rendition of branding is a necessary evil out there. What I want our audience to understand, it isn't the I in your branding. It's what's being done, the successes, the endorsements. Do a deeper dive for us in what our audience really should pay attention to in branding themselves.
Well, oh, sure. Yeah. So I like to tell folks, like, who are your favorite influencers? It's like we live in the world of influencers. And just, I mean, Vince, just look now. I do not follow any influence, but my wife does. Like, she's got cooking influencers and clothing influencers and design influencers, things like that. And every now and then she'll, oh my gosh, you got to see this. ... But the whole branding piece is anything that you can do where you have external validation. So it's not like Tom Kosnick getting out there saying, geez, how great Tom Kosnick is about with strategic planning or compensation design or whatever it is. But it's really, okay, I get on a podcast to talk about compensation, for example, and I talk about compensation, and that's certainly a promotion. But when I have external entities, whether that's people or organizations, that are leaving reviews on my LinkedIn profile or on my website, that shows that gosh, yeah, no, like, we worked with Tom ... we give him a 4.8 rating. I mean, it just goes. That's all part of that. The building of that personal brand. That one can stand out from the crowd. Basically, I mean, you want to become the influencer that stands out from the rest of the influencers, and it's not just. It's not just, wow, that guy's a good looking guy, that woman's a good looking woman, and people like to watch. It's a lot more than that. It's that their presentation is consistent, it's professional. There's external folks that are well, it's all the whole mimetic desire. It's you have folks that gosh, if so and so is working with Tom, then I want to work with Tom, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It really does. What do you feel in your journey? You've seen so much change. What do you feel is the most common misconception of executive search today that you find yourself addressing?
The most common from the executive search, the recruiter.
From not from the recruiter side, but what do you feel is the most common misconception of the executive search industry that you find yourself addressing with those search firms?
Yeah, I would say the most common misconception, and I think you've heard this over and over again, is I hear, oh, it's a relationship game, it's a relationship business, and the other side of that coin is, well, we don't need processes, we don't need procedures, we don't, like, Tom, just go, like, just start meeting people, work your network, make connections, ask people who you know, all that stuff. That's the most misconception. As you know, and there's data and there's research on this as well. As you know, the most successful sales executives, executive recruiters, they have a commitment to a methodology, right? A procedure, a policy. But you get a lot of folks that you get a lot of folks that are like, hey, this is a relationship game. It's that we really don't, and we really don't need to worry too much about. Let Tom do what Tom does, and we'll worry about him putting stuff in the database later.
See, I agree 100%. So many people think that relationships are an answer. Relationships are a journey.
Yeah.
And relationships are built on trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
And trust is, to your point, built on me as a recruiter's agenda to serving you. It's not about me. It's about your need, your want, your desire. And
yes.
So you're very, very clear as far as what you're saying. It's not the lip service, it's the action behind. You do what you say what you do.
Yeah, and interesting thing, on that note, I mean, there's been a handful of times where I have erred, and then the common response in that scenario is, well, I'll just go find a new client, and I'm proud to say, I've handwritten notes, cards, letters, apologizing, picked up the phone, called. Hey, I was wrong. I was overzealous. I was wrong. I apologize. In hindsight, it was just my error. I apologize. I hope that we can get back on track. Vince, my God. I mean, it's like that all of a sudden a relationship that you could have lost, that becomes much more authentic, much more deeper. I've never had it the other way. It's always, but that takes a little bit of guts to do stuff like that, right?
Ownership of responsibility.
Yeah, it's yes, yeah. So, and that gets around, right?
That's exactly right. It's amazing how corporate leaders talk to other corporate leaders in their same disciplines. So You're right. Word of mouth is amazing, and that goes back to what we talked about 10 minutes ago, and that's branding.
Yes. Yep.
If you do what you say and say what you do, you're building your brand.
Yes.
Again, things that have changed, especially since COVID, is the dilemma we're all in right now is working from home, demanding to come to the office, the hybrid, that it's a trilemma to be specific.
Yeah.
How are you addressing this? Whether it's who cares who the audience is? It's a common theme that you're having to ask questions to what they're trying to figure out and solve. But how are you dealing with that out there?
Yeah, the whole remote work is it's changed business and business models for sure, and it's changed. There's a lot of not good about remote work, and just so two areas, like we know. And by the way, because I'm certified organizational development consultant, I always like, okay, somebody makes a statement, where's the facts behind that? Where's the data behind that says? But we do know that when people are working 100% remote, the drinking goes up, the marital conflicts go up, the stress level goes up, the burnout level goes up. Well, we've got data on that. So kind of a negative side of the whole remote work thing, right? From the employer side, boy, more difficult to train, more difficult to motivate, more difficult to manage because they're just not there. More difficult to build collaboration, more difficult to build culture. I don't know how you build a culture with 40 people, 50 people, 100 people that are all working remote, across the United States. It's just, I don't know how you do that. There are people that claim that, oh, we did it, we're successful at it, so the whole remote work, there's, pros and cons on it. And we're still figuring it out. It's one of the tales of COVID that we're figuring out, because it was such a big radical change from, people just like no remote work at all to, all of a sudden you got a third of the working population that are working remote. And I don't know where this research, I was at a talk not too long ago, just less than a month ago. And a gentleman that had done research in the staffing industry on productivity with remote work and in the office work, and they found that the most productive staffing firms had a 3 days in the office, 2 days remote. That people were most productive, businesses were most productive, that people hit their highest levels of productivity 3 days in the office, 2 days remote. And then the business open 5 days out of the week. So that remote, who's coming in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday might not be who's coming in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, might be different from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But they figure that out. And the other thing that is so funny, that I've had so many clients that had told me that when we were in the heat of COVID and everybody's working from home and wearing masks and all that stuff, that the first people that were back in the office with a 22 and a 23 and a 25-year-olds because
really,
yes, yeah, because they wanted. Well, look, I mean, we're in an industry where you have to be somewhat extroverted if you want to succeed as a recruiter. Not wildly extroverted, but somewhat extroverted. I mean, those people hate working in I live in Chicago, so people are living with two other people in a flat on a 1-floor flat with 3 bedrooms, and they're working in their bedrooms, which is a tiny little bedroom and a tiny little closet. And who, I mean, that would drive anybody insane. Right. So those young people where they were they were in the big cities, they were the first ones that were wanting to come back and get back in the office and get some breathing room and meet with their colleagues and all that. But yeah, so it's you just have to figure it out for each business. But yeah, if you can draw balance between that remote and in the office, that's the best scenario.
Tom, we could talk for hours on different issues and things that have come up. How can our audience get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure. We have a website at vicesgroup.com, and all our contact information is on the Vices Group. I'm Tom G. Kosnick on LinkedIn. And so either through LinkedIn, we're well connected there. We put a lot of value add information out on on LinkedIn. I do a lot of these kinds of things here with you. But yeah, just our contact information is on our website and or LinkedIn. Best way to reach me.
Boy, I really thank you for taking the time out of your day, which has got to be action-packed with so many search firms. That I really appreciate you taking the time today. I'm hoping that we've set a little bit of a teaser out there, because I think the information you have to share with people is very, very important. takes a deep dive, lots of questions to be answered.
Yeah.
But I think you've got a value to offer these people, and I want to thank you for being on this podcast today.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you for inviting me, Vince.